You know if you can achieve your goals? How do you know if your plan's going to work? Great question, because a lot of people share with us, don't they? I want to achieve this, I want to go there, I want to experience that, I want to have my own business, I want to have a new career, I want to be wealthy. Lots of people share what they're going to do. But it's been suggested by the experts that study the brain that if our brain doesn't have an exact day, date and time or a very specific reason for doing something, it gets a bit confused. Our brain needs specifics. So here's some of the things that could be holding us back from achieving our goals. I'll try, hopefully, eventually, maybe. Those words, just by definition, are sharing with your own brain perhaps that I'm giving myself an out, I'm giving myself an option. The people that achieve their goals, the ones that make stuff happen, don't give themselves an option. They don't have a plan B. There's a gentleman behind me on the wall who shared with his mum at a very young age, I'm going to be one of the world's best footballers ever, and I don't have a plan B. That's his quote. Because if you've got a plan B, if that fails, I'll do this, then is it possible that your brain then doesn't commit to that because it's got this option? If you don't have a plan B, if you don't, I'll try to do that, and I'll just use this simple example. Have you ever said to somebody, I'll try to come to the party or I'll try to come to the event? What does that actually mean? For most of us, that means I'm not coming, I'm just being polite. Could that be the same thing for your brain? I'll try is, yes, I'll tell my brain that perhaps I'll give it a go, but I'm not committed. And that's one of the most beautiful words when it comes to achieving goals. It's called commitment. And there's that really fun quote. At breakfast time, if you eat bacon and eggs, one of those animals is committed and one of them is just there for the ride. One of those animals has put in 100% effort to be there. The bacon has to give everything to be there, and the egg can just keep showing up every so often. I'm sharing that with you because if you really want to achieve something, if it's really important to you to do something, what is your commitment level? If you say eventually, hopefully, maybe I'll do that, your brain's got no chance because there's no time frame there. How long is any of those time frames? And I'll give you a really interesting example. As a personal exercise coach, one of the things that I don't do anymore, and the reason I call myself a personal exercise coach, is this particular example, I had two women in front of me, which I'll never do again. Because obviously personal means you're going to share your goals with me and we're going to help you achieve those goals personally. But I had two women in front of me and I asked them what their goals were. And one lady said to me that she wanted to lose weight, and so did the other lady. But one lady said, my goal for losing weight, or my time frame, is eventually I hope to lose some weight. And the other interesting thing she shared with me was that my husband wants me to lose weight. I'm doing this for my husband. The other lady was a little bit different. She said, on the 24th of December at 7:30, I'm not walking into the Christmas party ever again as the fat chick. Now that was her quote, not mine. But she was very committed. She had an exact time, an exact date, and an exact picture in her head of what she was going to achieve. And the interesting thing there is the brain thinks in pictures and the brain thinks in specifics. Your brain doesn't know what to do with eventually, hopefully, maybe. Because I'll ask the question again, when is eventually? Is it tomorrow? Is it next week? Is it next month? Is it next year? If you don't give your brain specifics, it won't do what it's told. In fact, the reverse, it will always do what it's told. And if you don't give it a time frame, it'll just procrastinate because it's got no specific time frame. If you tell your brain and your body that you'll try to do something, there's no commitment there. So you're not saying I'm going to do it. If you really want to achieve anything, is it possible that you have to know exactly what you want, exactly why you want it, the exact time frame that you're going to achieve it in, and then your brain will do whatever you tell it to do. But if you give it an out, if you give it an option, if you give it a, well, maybe, and we know that doesn't work. The reason we know that is the world is filled with people who say eventually, hopefully, maybe I'm going to do that, and they don't do it. But if you've got an exact day, an exact date, an exact time, the what you want to do, the why you want to do it, you can visualize exactly where it's going to happen. You've got the time frame that says, I'm going to do it by this time. Now, one of the interesting questions that people ask me is, Rowie, what if I don't achieve it by that time frame? What if something happens and the day and date and time comes and I haven't achieved my goal? Well, the reverse question of that is, if you don't have a time frame, you've got nothing to focus on. And it's really interesting, particularly in education. I'm dealing with every single day people who are meant to be self-motivated, self-managed, self-educated, self-excited about their career path, about their business. But when you give somebody a time frame, it's really interesting to see how things change. For example, in education, the requirements to achieve a business diploma or to become a qualified exercise professional, the requirements change on a fairly regular basis, which means if you were enrolled in Max, for example, and you have a curriculum that you need to complete, and the government has obviously set standards for a qualification. Well, when those standards change, there's a time frame. Up until that time frame, you have to do this kind of study, and after that, it's going to change. And it's really interesting that when you give people a time frame, they are more likely to achieve the goal. It doesn't mean they're going to achieve the goal, and a lot of people still don't. But for some people, that exact day, date, and time gives them something to focus on. I use the example of people getting into shape for a wedding. It's an exact day, an exact date, and an exact time, and a specific way that you want to look. And a lot of people, that is the driving force to get their body into great shape. Now, the sad thing about that, of course, is a lot of people, the day they got married is the day that they look the most beautiful. They're in their peak physical condition, and then after that, it's like, well, I got married and it doesn't matter anymore. And that's my real challenge when it comes to the psychology of achievement. Is it, once you've achieved a goal, could it be really important to set another goal? And I always ask that question because the people, again, the wall behind me is filled with people who don't just, or haven't just achieved one time. They're multiple world champions, multiple achievers of major things. And the reason I study those people is I always find it really interesting. Some people achieve something once and they never do it again. I want to be the person that continues to achieve all of the time. How about you? So do you need to set a goal, have a specific time frame, make sure that you commit to it, and these words of try, maybe, eventually, hopefully, maybe they just shouldn't exist. And that's, of course, completely up to you. But if, like me, you're studying excellence, and is there a difference in headspace between people who achieve and people who don't achieve? Is there a different commitment for people who win multiple world championships than people who just win one world championship, or say they're going to win a world championship and they never do? And obviously there's a different brain space. So what if the simple vocabulary change of not eventually, hopefully, maybe I'll try, what if you get rid of those and just say I will do? As the Star Wars little wise man says, there is no try, only do. And if you say this is what I want and then go do it, is it likely that your headspace will change? Because once you have done something, you know you can do it, which means you could do it again. And that's the interesting brain headspace that I'm always studying. If I'm an achiever and I get into the habit of achieving, is it possible that I'll keep going and keep achieving more? If I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, what happens to my headspace? And is it possible that we get into the habit of not achieving? Now, habits are easy to change. You just have to replace a bad one with a good one. You replace that habit with a different one. And could you replace, I'm going to hopefully maybe sometime in the future achieve something, versus this is the exact day, date and time I'm going to do it and I'm going to achieve it without a plan B, without an option. Another example we use here at Max is a lot of people live their life as a monkey. They hang on to one vine and they hang on to another vine and they keep swinging between the two. But they don't go anywhere because that vine can't take them anywhere because they're still holding on to this one and this one keeps pulling them back there. Perhaps it's time to drop off the old habits, take up the new habits, just replace them, the bad habits or the old habits with new ones, let go of the old vine and focus on the future. You could decide today, couldn't you? This is the day, today's the day. I'm going to do it, this is the exact day, date and time, and whatever your goal is. And the beautiful thing about the brain, if you give it something to do, if you give it something to achieve, that's when we start feeling really good about ourselves. We've got a purpose and we achieve. If you've got a purpose, you're more likely to get out of bed in the morning. If you've got a purpose, you're less likely to be depressed or anxious or angry or upset. If you've got a reason to get up, you get up and you go and you do, versus hopefully, eventually, maybe. And that's the very simple example again that I always use. If you decide that I'm going to exercise, you don't have to wait till Monday. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You can sprint on the spot right now. If you decide that you're going to eat healthy food, you don't have to wait till tomorrow. The very next thing you eat could be something that's healthy. Those decisions are completely up to us. We don't have to try, we can just do. Don't have to try, just do. Thank you for coming to Romax. And is it possible that if you do all the things that you need to do to be fit and strong, have a career or business that you love, be financially free and have great relationships, that all of those things will happen, rather than I'll try to do, eventually, hopefully, maybe I'll do them, and then of course they never happen. So if you really want to achieve, if you want to be an achiever and continue to achieve, could it be the option today is to change the vocabulary? It's not hopefully, eventually, maybe I'll try. It's just, I will do. And then I did, and then I can do it again. Wouldn't that be awesome? Super duper doo. How are you? I'm sure you are a doer.